Coming up, I'm showing you places in my training where I'd use a second horse to give the other horse confidence and enable them to work out what the problems are because they feel calmer. So we've got two horses here, one with the white face, he is called Domingo and he was here to be broken in, and the other one is George, and George was here to be retrained because he was having a few issues. And I've got them in the pen together because, you know, horses do like to be in groups, and I'm looking to have a low heart rate with my horses so that they've got a clear head and they've got space in their brains to be able to listen to what I'm trying to do. So the herd behaviour, obviously we want them both to have a low heart rate. If one of them's whizzing around like a lunatic, that's not going to help. So we've got to make sure the two horses are happy with each other and they're happy in the environment they're in. And it's not that I always train horses in pairs, but in this situation, especially for Domingo, who found training not his favourite thing, I felt the addition of a friend would just sweeten him up a bit. The other thing about training together is that they can observe that I'm going to be treating one horse well, so that other horse is more likely to think that I'm going to treat him well too. But now keep an eye on George on the right, and Domingo's trying to figure out how to come round to the bale. But in the process, George, I've only just looked round and George has observed that and he's moved his quarters to the bale. So it just shows how observant he is. Now I'm coming down to keep an eye on George still and Domingo. So I put my hand up to ask Domingo to come round, and George is actually the one who's more responsive to moving his quarters around. Domingo did move forward because I do actually teach them to line up so that I'm in the right spot. But George was the one that was really on it. So that's a really good example of your horses being really observant. I am just going to show you another bit, which is I often get off after I'm training because I want to see if they'll still want to connect with me. He's got George on the left that you can't actually see, but he then just does this. He tries so hard. I'm asking him back to the bale and he could have just wandered about like he did before, but he's really thinking, because I have trained him to go sideways to me as well, but he's really trying his hardest to get the reward, and that was a real effort. But he has, because he's super relaxed, he's getting super rewards. He's tried something that's properly difficult. He's just backed this horse. On that video, you know, he'd only probably been ridden a couple of times. So here we've got Alice, the dark mare, and Weetabix, who's just a superstar, and I very rarely need to do this, but Alice had come totally unhandled until she was 7, and she played her cards very close to her chest, and she's actually quite an anxious horse, and I just didn't want to make a mistake. When you first get on them, you just don't want to make a mistake because you just want it all to be pleasant. It makes your life so much easier. You can see here she goes round to sniff my foot, and then when she puts her head back up, she has a lick and a chew. So that's releasing stress. So she was stressed with what I'm doing. And I've got Weetabix here just to help her with that anxiety, help her feel calm and that everything's okay, because Weetabix is so chilled out. I just thought I'd pop this video in. These are two homebreds just standing waiting to be tacked up. But you can see, because they're together, they're just super happy. They just look, you know, very content. So when training, the more you do with a horse under threshold of anxiety, so with a horse feeling calm, and with me I'm rewarding them with food, the more tolerant they will become. So these guys are field mates, so that's going to keep their anxiety levels really low. And in their early training, we would have rewarded them for all these things. So the fact that they've got another horse with them is a real sort of, you know, it just helps. It just brings everything down, and then you're rewarding that feeling of feeling calm. And it becomes a very useful tool. And you can see here the girls hopping on and off the ponies, and it can look, you know, I don't know, if I was a horse I'd want a child climbing all over me, but you can see here they're completely happy with it. And that's because of the sort of back training, the training that's done in the early days, when you're training them under threshold and you're rewarding them. You're going to be making them feel good about things that could actually be annoying. So back to the more serious stuff. We've got Weetabix again looking after this mare, and she was really sort of claustrophobic. She was quite an odd mare, this, and her anxiety would come up really high very quickly in different situations. So I've got Weetabix there, just being her mate while she's being washed down, because she found being in a wash box and being washed down really quite difficult. So I'd have Weetabix there. I'd also be rewarding her. And here Weetabix has left and she's a bit worried. She's going, oh God, there's my friend. But I've done enough work that she is tolerating. I wouldn't say she's loving being washed down, but she's perfectly happy to be washed down. She's slightly looking out for Weetabix there. And these sort of things, they make a massive difference if we can train them under thresholds. And Weetabix is hard at work again, being in the lorry to support this big bay horse who was very anxious about loading. And again, we've got another Weetabix one where Weetabix is on the small ramp, and this young horse, I think he's a 3-year-old, and just helping him with a bit of loading. Once he's in, he can stand there, and their noses are actually really quite close together. I think even Weetabix there sort of sticks her nose up, and he then puts his nose to her, so they're almost touching noses there. So that's just a case of helping them with this feeling of safety, having this nice low heart rate around, and really giving the horses support at the start of their journey. These two young horses came in together. I trained these two alongside each other, and it really helped their confidence. I love this clip. We've got one on the right sort of waiting for the job to start, and the one on the left is actually in training. She's overshot the bail, and this is the first time I've asked her to back up. So every time she backs up, she gets a scratch because her head is too far away and I'd have to get off the bail. And so then I scratch her, tell her she's clever, and then I say back again, and she's really trying to work it out. It's quite a difficult thing. This horse is barely backed, so I probably only sat on her back a few times. So it's very early in the training. And then again, I wait, she takes a step forward, she gets it wrong, she's not quite sure, and then, she gets it. So I give her a quick scratch, jump off the bail as quick as I can, and reward her for that. This one's a great one. Same two horses, playing around. Nobody needs to do this with their horses. I just love horses. I love playing around with them. I love seeing how their brains work. So I am just going with it. I'm going with what they were sort of directing me. And the one on the left was brilliant. She lined up immediately. The one on the right wasn't quite sure. So I just went over and explained it to her, rewarded her. And it was a really fun moment for all of us.